Hi, welcome to Dean Park. It's been over a couple of months since I last gave you an update on progress here on the layout, so in this video I'll be bringing you bang up to date as to what I've been up to. The main job I've been doing is scratch building a factory. In this video I'll take you through the start of that process and how I tackled it, as well as showing you some new rolling stock additions and some upgrades as well. Finally, I'll give you a glimpse into the future of what to expect here over the next few months. If you enjoy the video, please click that like icon. If you've not already done so, please subscribe to the channel, and if you have any questions, please post them in the comment section below. You can also stay up to date with progress here in the layout by visiting the Dean Park Station Facebook group. This is a great place for asking questions, getting involved in model railway discussion, sharing your modelling progress, and is a great source for free advice. In the meantime, I hope you enjoy the video. My intention here is to put a low relief factory covering the cows in the back scene. I don't think they're really relevant to this area of the layout, so I want to cover them up. And all the way along in front of this kind of large rock or salt pile in the distance in the back scene. The photograph on the screen now is what I'm going to loosely base my model on. This is the actual prototype, and it's a linoleum factory. It's the Nairns Linoleum Factory, which is world famous for its production in cushion floor and linoleum. I've got a couple of drawings here that I've done. This is the latest one, and it shows that I've got these sections here step forward from the rest of the building as per the prototype. Also, as per the prototype, I've got the windows starting at the bottom of the floor above. Okay, so that is basically the lintel for the window below. I've got 3 windows remaining here. I'll have 3 bricked out windows, and maybe the odd one will have a vent or something in its place. Okay, so it'll not just be blank brick, it'll be a stepped in new piece of brick with some detail. I've got a roller shutter here for access to the yard. This area here is slightly taller, again as per the photograph, and there's railings along the top section here and a brick parapet wall along the top there. This section here is very much the warehouse. There's no windows in this as such. Obviously you've got the it's very brutalist design actually. You've got the concrete pillars going this way and then the concrete floors with brick sections. It's not designed to be pretty, it's designed to be functional, and that is part of the charm for me, obviously being an industrial setting on that part of the layout. So that is the kind of thinking behind the drawings. The first one was very much similar, but the windows were positioned in the middle of the brick wall and not from the parapet. But I'm trying to go with the prototype as much as I can, so I've altered the size of the area and moved the windows up. I've also got 4 sections here. I decided on 3 larger sections. It just gives a bit of variation from the tower along the way, and I felt that the 3 section worked better visually. So what I'll do now is I'll go and make up some card mock-ups to put in place on the layout, and then I'll get an indication of sizes and see what it looks right, and then I'll detail the models a little bit further, which you'll see in the subsequent clips. Okay, this is the very early mock-up of what I'm looking at. At the moment we've got the building, which is square to the back scene, and I've got this tower that protrudes from the rest. In the actual prototype it continues along here and down, so I'll model both to see which one I prefer before deciding. Obviously I'm going to model it loosely on the prototype, but also I've got to get what looks right in the actual area, okay, of the space available. Here I've got a couple of warehouses using my design that I used on the low relief warehouses in the depot. The site beside this building has got lots of warehouses like that, so I'll adapt to suit, and that takes it along to, I would say, pretty much the maximum working space that I've got. Again, that is square with the back scene of the layout, okay? What I'm going to do now is I'm altering it to set the building at an angle. So I've trimmed a little bit off there, so that it actually sits not at the same angle as the rails, okay, but a slight angle, and that'll allow me to angle the warehouses a little bit more. And from that I might get a little bit more space because it's going toward the back scene a little bit more there, gives a bit more space there for fencing and something, you know, more of a perimeter. And obviously then I've got that on top there. So just by angling it, I think that is 100mm that side and 75 at that side, so it's not a massive angle, but I just feel it offsets it a little bit and gives me more space in which to work with regard to the grounds in front. So I'll be looking at obviously mocking a more detailed card building up for both situations. Looking from the other end of the depot, you can see the structure in the distance there, and it is giving that powerful industrial appearance. Okay, it's a large structure, it's not meant to be small and retiring, it's supposed to be bigger in your face. So that is, I'm quite liking that angle actually, and the view that I'll potentially get when that's all in place. Okay, I've overlaid this design on top of the mock-up, and it shows the 4 sections, and I feel it's a bit tight, so I'm going to model the 3 sections as I showed you in one of the drawings, and I'm also going to adapt this so the tower bit comes out there, okay, as per the actual building, and then I'll make a decision on, you know, what I feel suits the area best. took you through the process, albeit a sped up one, of me making this mock-up using the working drawings for the dimensions, and I've now finished it and put it in position on the actual site, and instantly I have to say I'm pleased with the overall dimensions and proportions of the building. I feel that bringing the tower out, including this part, has improved the look of it, and reducing it to the 3 sections there has made it less busy and more in line with the distances here. Okay, as I've said to you many times, and I will continue to say, I'm looking at the prototype and I'm trying to adjust it to fit into the scene of my layout. There's no detail on the side of the building yet. That'll be continuing with the vertical and horizontal concrete, and there'll be more windows at the side there. Okay, so having looked at this, I'll do some more tweaks to the shall we say, the early production version, and I'll go away and I'll do all the CAD drawings, and then I'll start to produce the actual building and templates for it, and I'll obviously take you through that entire process in the video. What I've done is I've cut all the parts for the building, and this is the end part here, and you can see I've placed panels of brick onto the MDF. This is just Southeastern fine cast plain brick, and the gaps here are for the concrete pillars and the concrete floors, so they'll be added in after I do all the brickwork. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to prime all the parts here, and then obviously add in the brick colour with the mortar washes, etc., and then place on the concrete verticals and horizontals. Here's an example of the windows that I'm using on the factory. They're from York Model Making, and they're made from Romark, which is a type of plastic that can be easily laser cut. The one on the left has just been primed with a white primer from Tamiya, and then given a flat white top coat again from Tamiya. The one on the right has been weathered. I used the Tamiya Weathering Master powders for that, and also I fitted the glazing. The glazing is a 0.5mm clear piece of plastic, which I've lightly passed over with a thinned down Humbrol 32 from an airbrush prior to fitting it to the frame to give that dirty glazing appearance. Moving on from the last clip, what I've done is I've primed and then painted the brick areas using Rail Match dark red brick. If you see above the windows there, you'll see an area that's not been affected by the mortar wash, and it is quite a dark maroon colour. But don't be put off by that, because when you do use the mortar wash, in this case a Humbrol 121 enamel, it takes the edge off that purpleness. Okay. Once it's dry, I then dry brush in some Humbrol 70, which is Humbrol's version of brick, and it just gives that slight variety to the actual brick faces. Okay. Before I actually add in the verticals and the horizontals, where you can see obviously the gaps there for them, I'm going to weather the brick using the Tamiya weathering powders. That will allow me to get into the corners and not be obstructed by the pillars that I'm going to obviously place on top, which will also be weathered. What you can see here is 2 sections. The section on the left has been weathered using the Tamiya Weathering Master kits, just to add some streaking and some variation to the brickwork along the top, some streaking, and at the bottom some collection of grime, and maybe some discoloration underneath the windows. The section on the right has not been done yet. As you can probably see, there's a slight difference. I think the weathering powders add some depth to the brickwork. You'll see from this view that I've just placed in some of the horizontal floors, and these were painted using Precision Paints weathered concrete, and you can see one that I've just laid on top of the brickwork there that's not been weathered in comparison to the one below it, which has been. I've just used the Tamiya Weathering Masters again to add some streaking and general build-up of grime, using the photographs from the prototype that I'm loosely replicating in this scratch build to get an idea of how the surfaces have weathered over time. I'm now at the stage of fitting the bricked up window sections. Now these were cut separately. Here's an example here, and what I did was I just cut out MDF and then I've put the brick on there, and I've actually painted it in Railmatch light brick as opposed to the dark brick for the rest of the building, so it stands out and it gives the impression that these buildings had their windows bricked up at a later stage. Okay, so it wasn't obviously done as soon as the thing was built, that'd been pointless. So they're a slightly different shade, and they've been weathered with the same powders as the rest of the brickwork. Now I've got windowsills in here, and obviously I'll have windowsills in the rest of the windows as well. There they are there. Okay, so the ledges are just painted the same colour of kind of dark concrete that the floors are painted, and I just weathered them with the Weathering Masters from Tamiya, and they just slot in there. And obviously I'll fit the window frames and stuff in the ones that I'm leaving, and the ones that are bricked, they'll just be glued in position. Now you'll notice they're sitting back from the surface. That's the reason I've laid it down here, so you can see that. So they're sitting back from the main bricks, they're not flush. This was usually the case when a window was bricked up at a later stage. I've looked at copious amounts of photographs from factories around my local area as well, including the one that I'm basing this on, and the bricked up or infilled windows are set back a little bit from the surface brick. The windows that I touched on earlier, I've fitted the glazing and I've weathered them up, and they'll be positioned, filed to fit, but they should fit pretty well, and they obviously have the ledge at the bottom as well. A lot of you will know by now that Bachmann have decided to retool the original Class 20s. They've already released the 20 Subclass 3 variants of this machine, which is in its current day use, and they'd left the original ones alone, which means it didn't have any lighting or modern mechanism. Thankfully, they've addressed this, and there'll be 3 models from launch in the first quarter of 2021. There is a original green one, there is a BR blue one, but the position of the arrows indicates it was a mid-1970s variant with the discs, and they're also releasing a rail freight one in the same livery as this, but with domino marker lights. Obviously a brand new mechanism inside, an update in the tooling correcting some of the issues with the current tooling, and there'll be lighting features as well. So I can't wait to get my hands on one of them. I've ordered a rail freight one, and it's also got the Haymarket emblem, the castle emblem on it as well, because it spent most of its time up here in the 1980s between Motherwell, Eastfield and Haymarket. The one I'm getting will be sound fitted, and will double head with this one, which is also sound fitted, and it'll be great to finally get them to pull any HAA hoppers from Cavalex and Accurascale in the future. Those of you who've watched me for a while will know that I've not got a lot of weathered rolling stock on my layout. I've been pretty flat out building a layout for the past 7 or 8 years, to be honest, and I'm not really going to be turning my hand to weathering rolling stock until I have kind of almost completed or finished, he says in inverted commas, the layout itself. I'll then practice on some old models, old Lima, old Hornby models, and get a technique that I'm happy with, and then I'll start doing some of my rolling stock, not all of it. I also enjoy watching and taking advice from others who've mastered it or are further down the road of doing local and rolling stock weathering. Tim Cooper, one of them, I got a bit of advice from him recently, which was appreciated, and I also enjoy watching the weathering from Everard Junction. So I'll be leaning on those two gents and no doubt others in the future. The coaches in front of you now are the Bachmann factory weathered with passengers fitted, and they're the ScotRail variant. They come in a twin pack. The weathering is pretty generic. It needs, individual touches just to make it a little bit less boring and bland. However, I'm not at that stage yet, but what was really annoying me was the shiny wheels and the almost clean bogies. So what I did was I painted the wheel sets and gave the bogies a bit of a weathering down using some sleeper grime from Rail Match and some oil colours around about the recessed areas, and the wheels themselves have been coated in sleeper grime as well. I use enamels for this. What I did with the wheels was I eventually ended up airbrushing them in position. If you position it and let the air flow from the airbrush, the wheel starts to spin, and then you just open the nozzle a little bit and it gives it a lovely quick coating of paint. So yeah, that's been a big difference. Just a little bit of work has made a big difference to the bogies there, and I'm a lot happier, and it actually makes the body side weathering stick out less, because before you had pretty clean bogies and shiny wheels. So that's my first foray into weathering rolling stock. It's not massive, but baby steps. I was surprised to read in the BRM Awards for 2020 that the Oxford Mark III has been nominated, and that surprised me because it's not exactly a new model. It's coming up for 4 years old now, and I've had them since release. I had it in the ScotRail and the Intercity Swallow liveries, which I both repainted the lower colours to make them more prototypical, because Oxford were way off with the colour shade. And I've also had a short rake of the blue-grey ones. However, I've recently added to that rake, so it doesn't just have to operate ScotRail push-pulls with my Bachmann DBSO, but it can also do West Coast mainline representations with a longer train, obviously, more standard opens, more first opens, and this Buffy Restaurant Mark III. So I've added to my collection, and I've also fitted the Hunt couplings onto these coaches, which really transform the gap between them. They're designed especially for the Oxford Mark III. If you're looking at that thinking, I quite like the appearance of those coaches all coupled up, then the link to the Hunt couplings is in the description below. However, it also got me thinking about another project that I could do. Kind of on the back of my top 10 of 2020, where I placed the RTC liveried Hornby Mark I. And the RTC fleet also had a Mark III, which they used to test behind, say for example, HSTs and the Class 91 when it was in test in the late 1980s. So what I'm going to do is I've got myself a spare Oxford Mark III, and I'm going to convert it to the coach that's the image on the screen now, to run in RTC livery, and that will allow me perfect timing for when the Hornby 91 arrives for me to do some testing prototypically on the main line. Something I've been working on during February is the next phase of electrification on the upper section, and this will take it from the Signal and Telecommunications Centre, you can just see at the right hand side here, shot there, all the way around to the start of the depot. So what I've done is I've built another phase of these Mark III head spans. It's been over 3 years since I did the first ones, and it really is unbelievable that time has flown that quickly, but I've used the same kind of construction methods as I did way back then. There is a 3.5 H section of brass and then 0.45mm nickel silver wire that I've used there. I've soldered it all together, and here we've got the registration arms. They are 0.8mm nickel wire, and these little insulators are from Enbrass Locos. This has just been painted with obviously primed first, then painted with Humbrol 64. The insulators are Precision Paints dark red brick, and all that's to be done now is to weather them and then place them on the layout, and I'll show you now where these are going to go. This phase of electrification has 3 headspans. The first one will go here, and it'll cover 4 tracks. You've got the 2 main lines plus the siding plus the track on the incline, so there'll be 4 registration arms there. The next headspan will go here, covering these 3 tracks, and the third one will go here, and it'll cover the 2 main lines and this line here, but not that one. So the mast will be here, but I'll only have 3 registration arms because the depot is not electrified. Just a heads up to let you know where I'm going with the electrification on the depot side. I've put some bits of tape down there, and that's possible positions of masts. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Scale Model Scenery OHLE, and it's going to be a cantilever design. So there'll be one mast with lattice work going across to cover both of the lines. And I said it'll be cantilever, so it's only supported at one end. I've got images of the East Coast Main Line to show this style being used, as well as the Mark III registration arms. So that's what I'm going to do all the way along the depot side of the layout. I say Justin's developing or tweaking the kit that he's already got for me, so hopefully that'll be out fairly shortly to allow me to complete electrification along the front of the depot, maybe even in time for the Hornby 91s arriving. Well, that's it for this update, and work on the factory is ongoing, and I'll hopefully be able to update you with more progress in the next video, so stay tuned for that. Progress has been a bit slower than expected due to recent heavy snow, where I was physically not able to get to the shed to paint parts of the factory. However, spring is now in the air, so a multi-million-pound paint shed is back up and running. If you have any questions on what you've seen in this update, please give me a buzz in the comments section below. I'm sorry, due to pressures of work and family life, I'm unable to answer all the emails and messages I get, so please use the comments section. In the meantime, take care and happy modelling.